Looking for a DIY, all natural, zero waste, one ingredient laundry detergent? What would you say if I told you there was an almost limitless supply just waiting for you in a public park, forest, or even a tree-lined avenue near you? Well, then join me as we cross the bridge into the Tuileries Gardens in Paris to go urban foraging for that one special ingredient. So what's this all about? Horse chestnuts, also known as conkers. The seeds of the ornamental tree found in so many public gardens in temperate regions worldwide. It's about that incredible abundance that we see all the time, but can't eat, because, unlike sweet chestnuts, they're toxic. So we end up just kicking them around the park, or, like the British, hold conker knocking contests, while wearing funny hats and pondering other potential horse chestnut uses. Which of course brings us to our zero waste laundry detergent. One of the components that makes horse chestnuts toxic are saponins. Saponin is Latin for one of the soaps. Saponins are found in many plants, including the soapworts, which, as their name suggests, have been used traditionally to make soap. The same can be done with horse chestnuts, and that's just what we're going to do. It's already a little late in the season here in the Northern Hemisphere, but if you've had a mild fall like we have in Paris, you can still find some within bouncing or rolling distance of a horse chestnut tree, or raked up in a pile of leaves. Making horse chestnut or conker laundry detergent is easy. Basically, you just need to peel, chop, and dry them. You want to do so soon after collecting them, however. It makes them a lot easier to chop. I did a first test run with the first batch, and I've done a dozen or so loads with it. I think it's great. I'm really tickled. So I went back to get more chestnuts, horse chestnuts, to demonstrate the technique for you and to build up my supply. But I couldn't get to it right away, and I made the mistake of leaving them in the kitchen in the bag for a week. Some of them molded. None of them had wormholes like sweet chestnuts, like those sweet chestnuts I showed in my video about roasting chestnuts. I guess it's the saponins, which are made to dissuade creatures from eating them, including ourselves. It apparently works. However, some of them did mold. So I soaked these overnight, and they are much softer. However, they were sudsy this morning, so I hope I didn't lose too much of the saponin content, the soap content. So do try to deal with these as soon as you get them. And if you live near a park, you can make several trips. Do them little by little and just add to your stock. I'll show you what I've got here before we start chopping. I've got the chestnuts. We'll start with these. I have a big bowl for discard of the peels and so on, which you can compost or whatever. And then I have two bowls. One bowl for the nut that I'm able to get the peel off, and one bowl for the nut pieces that I cannot get the peel off. Horse chestnuts have been used traditionally not only for soap, but also for dyes, and they use the peel. for the dyes. So you don't want to get the peels in your laundry. If you're doing a dark load, that's fine. And that's why we're saving the ones that we can't get the peels off. We can use that for black loads, black jeans or whatever. But you don't want to use it on your lighter clothes. You want to be sure that all the peel is off for your lighter clothes. Hence the 2 bowls. All right, let's get chopping, shall we? Perhaps I should warn you now. Preparing horse chestnut laundry detergent is labor-intensive. Not complicated, but time-consuming, and my first batch gave me blisters. Here in Paris, it's just the 2 of us, so it's doable. But if you've got a large family, you'll need to put everyone to work to make it worth it. And you'll need to adapt the dosing that I'll give later on. I've seen some people chop the horse chestnuts into big chunks, but as any science nerd will appreciate, the smaller you chop them, the more surface area you get, and the easier it will be for the soapy saponins to leach out. After several attempts, I've found that chopping them into slivers works best. They're easier to chop that way, and the shells come off more readily. While we're chopping, we might as well go ahead and discuss how to use horse chestnuts. Unlike soap nuts, you don't put conkers or horse chestnuts directly in the laundry, although I suppose you could. Instead, you soak them and use the water. I have a smaller European-sized washing machine, so I use 1 heaping tablespoon, or about 15 grams. If you have a heavy-duty American-sized machine, you might want to double that. To use, put your chestnut pieces in a jar and fill it half full with very hot or even boiling water. My tap is close to boiling, so I'm just using that, but you could also use your kettle. Then close the jar, give it a good shake, and leave it out overnight and up to a day, or, once it's cooled, a few days in the refrigerator. Then, simply pour or strain the chestnut water into your machine as you would regular laundry detergent. Luckily, chestnut soap is odorless, unlike soap nuts, which I don't care for. For a fresh scent, I always add essential oils or my homemade hydrosols to wool dryer balls anyway. And that's all there is to it. You can actually do 3 loads with the same chestnut pieces, so simply add more hot water to start the process over. Once you've soaked the pieces a first time, you won't have to wait as long to use the next 2 rounds. Just be aware that the first of the 3 rounds is the strongest. I try to use that for towels or jeans. Speaking of jeans, remember to reserve the darker pieces for darker loads. It looks like I collected the chestnuts just in time. If they're picking up leaves out on the boulevard, they're probably doing the same in the Tuileries Gardens. Here we go. After 4.5 hours of chopping and listening to podcasts, I managed to get all the peels off this time. But some of the nuts are clearly darker, having already absorbed some of the dye component from the shells, apparently. So I'll keep those separate for dark loads. And we're finally ready to dry our horse chestnut laundry detergent. I don't have room for a dehydrator in my Paris kitchen, so I simply dry mine on pizza trays in the oven on low. I have one of those smart ovens that constantly outwits me, but I do know how to use the meringue setting, which is perfect for drying. I'll leave them in overnight. So here we are the next day with our dried horse chestnuts. both the lighter and darker pieces. As you can see, I'm storing them in airtight jars, since they are an organic product and will mold if exposed to humidity. Alright, so now let's look at how much zero-waste laundry detergent we actually got out of what we collected. We started out collecting roughly 2 kilos or 5 pounds of horse chestnuts. Of those, I tossed probably a pound because I waited too long to process them. So after drying, I ended up with 1.2 kilos or 2 quarts of dried chestnut pieces, of which 3/4 were light-colored slivers and 1/4 dark slivers. Now at 1 heaping teaspoon or 15 grams per 3 loads of laundry, as I explained earlier, that makes an estimated 240 loads from the jars you see here. Again, if your machine is large, that might be 120 loads, but that's still pretty good, don't you think? I probably won't be giving up my stain remover or special detergents for whites, darks, and delicates, but I must say I'm delighted to switch out my everyday laundry detergent for this urban, foraged, organic alternative. So, do you think you'll give it a try? Let me know in the comments below. And share any tips you may have if you've already tried it in the past. While you're at it, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you with us.